What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a hunter's guide to farming research points in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. In this video I'm going to demonstrate two farming routes I use that yield a decent amount of research points. But there are a few things you have to consider first. First of all, using a farming build demonstrated in a previous video can help yield more research points as a result. Also, when you go to the canteen, making use of certain feline buffs can increase the potential amount of research points you walk away with. The two feline buffs you'll want to consider is the Feline Harvester, which reduces the respawn time between gathering points, and more importantly is Feline Exchanger, which increases the number of research points you receive at the end of a quest. Now when it says quest, this can apply to investigation, Gaiden Lands, tour, expedition, whatever. But when it comes to farming research points, there are two routes I take depending on my mood. Now both these routes involve taking on no large monsters, so they can be done in investigations, expeditions or whatever. Just make sure when you're done and gathered enough points that you go to return from expedition so you actually receive the rewards. But anyway, the first route or farming method I use is found in the Hoarfrost Reach. Now I only take this route on when there is a Butterbur upsurge or more favourably a Frozen Foliage upsurge. This increases the amount of these gathering points found in the Hoarfrost Reach. These two, apart from the Gaiden Lands, yield some of the highest research points when you collect from them. Now a quick tip if you're looking to do this route and the Frozen Foliage upsurge or Butterbur upsurge isn't there, you can also find them in investigations. Just remember, as I said, to return from expedition when you're done, and you don't have to actually complete the investigation. You'll still be rewarded with the various research points you've collected even though you haven't technically completed the investigation. But anyway, once you arrive in the Hoarfrost Reach, use the hunting horn to play the various songs to buff up your hunter. I've gone over this in a separate video explaining why I use the hunting horn build when it comes to farming non-large monsters. It's all about getting that increased speed buff. On top of that, you also get bonuses including stamina reduction as well as other bonuses to your stamina management. Now for this experiment I was doing here, I was going to demonstrate the two farming areas until either A, my inventory was full, or B, the 10-minute mark was hit. I was interested to see how much research points you could get out of both locations during this time. Unfortunately though, there is a lot of various factors you have to consider. Sometimes you'll get rarer items from the gathering points, which yield more research points, whilst other times you'll only come away with lower ones. So there's a lot of variations in terms of the number of research points you can get out of these routes. Nonetheless, like I said, these are two routes that I favour. But anyway, I'll be playing these routes at double speed because they do take a long time. Like I said, on average they take about 10 minutes. And in all honesty, running around picking up Butterbur, Frozen Foliage, mining and picking up stuff from bone piles isn't exactly the most thrilling. Now in the Hoarfrost Reach route, I only pick up Butterbur and Frozen Foliage. I skip over all mining outcrops, bone piles and other items, as these don't yield research points. However, if I wasn't doing a dedicated farming video and I was just leisurely farming these areas, I would be picking them up nonetheless. So in the Hoarfrost Reach route, I just instead wanted to focus on the points that would actually guarantee us research points. Now there are other factors you can consider as well, picking up monster tracks for example, or if you're lucky enough to come across a rare pet, it can also be worth picking these up as they will also yield research points. Now you have to forgive me with the Hoarfrost Reach run. I believe I found the most optimal route here, but I may be missing out a few points here and there. For example, when you're doing a Butterbur upsurge, the area you saw at the start of this run has a lot more Butterbur gathering points, whilst the run that is being demonstrated here has the Frozen Foliage upsurge, so there is a lot more Frozen Foliage points gathered around the map. Another point I should make out for both runs as well is if you bring your Palico along as well as recruit another Palico, it can also yield more research points as the Palicos can also loot items for you. But for the demonstration of this video, I only brought along Maya instead of recruiting an additional Palico. Now unfortunately with the Hoarfrost Reach route, there are certain periods where there aren't really a lot of gathering points that yield research points. And if you wanted to save a bit of time, you could potentially teleport between the various camps. But I wanted to demonstrate the run in just one route. Now ultimately, when it comes to the areas of the Hoarfrost Reach, when it comes to Butterburs, you'll want to try to farm areas 1, 2, 4 and 13, at least at the higher reaches of 13. And when it comes to Frozen Foliage, they're found in areas 2, 8 when it goes to the underground areas of the Hoarfrost Reach, 7 and 15. These are the main areas you'll want to be farming. But lastly, when it comes to the Hoarfrost Reach, when you come to the end of Area 15, there is one more source of research points you'll want to consider, although you can only gather these once during any investigation, optional quest, whatever. This is the Elder Dragon Husk found at the top of Area 13. Now there are 2 areas of the Kushala Daora Husk that you can farm. These are counted as mining outcrops, and they can yield anywhere between 250 research points per item to 1000 per item. But anyway, once you get to this point in your farming route, you can either teleport back to Camp 1 and repeat the route, or bring the investigation to an end as I did here. Afterwards you'll get the end screen where it will tell you how much research points you came away with, to which for this run I came away with 13,500. Of course this can vary greatly depending on how lucky you are. This could be higher, it could be lower, so just take this as a ballpark number. But anyway, let's move on to the second area that I farm, which is the Gaiden Lands. The Gaiden Lands is a very resourceful area filled with mining outcrops and bone piles. These are what we're going to focus on, simply because if you're lucky enough you can come away with items that yield a lot of research points. Now whilst these bone piles and mining outcrops don't guarantee research points every time, so there is a little bit of luck involved, if you are lucky enough you can walk away with quite a bit of research points. On top of that, the Gaiden Lands items you actually get that don't yield research points are useful when it comes to various augmentations and such. So this can still be profitable even if you don't come away with research points all the time. So anyway, the route I normally take is starting off in the Coral Highlands. The Coral Highlands is located towards the east of the Gaiden Lands, and it's quite simple. All you have to do is really loop around, mining from any outcrops and picking bones up from any bone piles. Now of course with the Gaiden Lands it is random to where the gathering points will spawn. Unlike the Hoarfrost Reach route, which has guaranteed spots, the Gaiden Lands is kind of random. Now when I say random, there are fixed locations where the bone piles and mining crops can spawn, and once you've learnt them you'll know where to look. But when I say they're random, I mean they're not always there 100% of the time. So when you're going through the Gaiden Lands, there's a chance you may find an abundance of gathering points, and there's a chance you may find less than intended. But anyway, once I've done with the Coral Highlands I move on to the lava zone. Of course when you're here, bring a cold drink to help resist the heat effect of this zone. Here you'll also see a demonstration of why I bring a ghillie mantle, as half the time when you're doing this sort of farming you don't want to deal with large monsters. Also whilst in the lava zone I was lucky enough to come across one of the rare pets, the rowdy moly, which yields quite a fair few research points, so always keep an eye out for the rarer pets. The same applies when you're farming the Hoarfrost Reach as well. But anyway, once I was done with the lava zone I moved on to the Rotten Vale area of the Gaiden Lands, farming as I went along the way, running into a little bit of trouble with some damn Raffinos, which actually managed to blight me. Now when I am doing these runs I have very few items in my inventory, so I wasn't actually able to heal up, as most of the times when I am doing these runs I'm also picking up herbs, mushrooms and other items along the way. So whilst at the same time as farming research points I'm also collecting materials for various items and such. But anyway, once I was done with the Rotten Vale area of the Gaiden Lands I moved on to the Tundra region. Now it should be noted at this point in both the Hoarfrost Reach farming route and this farming route, unfortunately there will be a time where you need to refresh the various hunting horn songs to improve our speed and stamina consumption. So you may lose a tiny bit of time there, but overall the time spent rebuffing is made up by the fact that we move so fast. Anyway, in the Tundra region, of course, we're picking up items and that along the way, to the point where we actually fill up our inventory. Now, when this happens, in the Gaiden Lands, it's just a case of going back to the handler and reporting the investigation. This will yield you the total amount of research points you get for that set run, after which you can just start again and keep going. Now, ultimately, when it comes to the Gaiden Lands, it doesn't really matter what farming route you go, as all the areas are interconnected. For example, you can start off in the Ancient Forest, then go to the Wildspire Waste, Coral Highlands, so on and so forth. You don't have to follow the route that I've shown here. This is just a demonstration to show that the Gaiden Lands is one big area that can potentially yield a lot of research points if you're inclined to go farming. Of course, one alternative to the Gaiden Lands is to just farm the same area over and over again. But sometimes it does take a while for these gathering points, mining outcrops and bone piles to respawn, unfortunately. So take that into consideration. But there you have it, those are the two routes that I tend to use that I found yield the most research points without taking on large monsters. Now of course, when it comes to research points, you can also consider farming the other areas, although they may not yield as much research points. Before Monster Hunter World Iceborne, the Elder's Recess was the most lucrative place to gather research points, but things have changed now. Nonetheless, if you want to change the scenery, go to the other locations. Of course, there are other side things you can do, like completing bounties and that, especially weekly bounties, that yield a lot of research points as well. And as always, the choice is up to you. But sometimes I just like to kick back and do a casual farming route to stock up on those research points. It's strange that research points seems to be one area that I'm having problems with, but considering that I'm using the Elder Melder a lot to craft the various mega demon drugs and mega armor skin potions, as well as all the augmentations I'm doing for the build videos, it's no wonder I'm running out of research points. But hopefully this video will help to anyone else who's having a problem when it comes to research points. So, until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a hunter's guide to research point farming routes that I use in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.